with Bob's Leatherworks in Raleigh, North Carolina, and what I'm going to show you in this video is a custom rig that I made for a gentleman who has a Heritage Arms 22, 2 cylinders, long rifle, and a Magnum cylinder. And the gun in the holster right here is my 6.5-inch barrel Ruger single 6. His Heritage Arms is a 6.5-inch barrel too. So I made this rig scaled down for weight to match the 22 frame. And I also put some elements into it that make it look like the rig that Little Joe wore on Bonanza. And I will highlight those for you as I go along here. Now this is a drop loop Buscadero rig, just like that. And just to show you the back of it, if I can flip her over, there she is. Okay. While we're here, there's the leg tie and his initials, TJ, and my stamp. And there is the pull down for the hammer thong. Now I scaled this rig down for a couple of points. One is this system in through here, or this cutting. I cut a new belt style or pattern to get a little more narrow for the more narrow holster. But this holster mirrors a Paladin holster, an Ojala holster, okay, just like the Matt Dillon holster. If you look at this without the gun in it, you can see that shape of the rig that was black that had a 4 5/8 inch Ruger New Model Blackhawk in it. But there is that holster shape again, the cut, as it comes up out of where the gun sits. It's the same exact shape. Every Ojala holster has this shape. Okay. So I put a slightly different center bar buckle on this one. Sits up high, a little bit above the halfway point. I don't like them low. And this is right up where the cylinder comes in. If you follow your line, you'll see that the cylinder is slightly above, or the end of the cylinder is here, and this is just below it, and yet the buckle is halfway up the holster. This is a 6.5. Okay. Now, another feature, or the feature that makes it look like a Little Joe holster, are these pieces of Latigo that I ran around into both the belt billet and the buckle connector. I'll show you that one in a moment. And I worked this around in here, tied it in the back behind this piece, and then sewed them down onto this part. Therefore, you don't see them here. Okay. Need to burn these off before I send them off to the gentleman. I forgot to do that. These are just some loose threads from the sewing. So I'll burn them off and flatten them down before they go into the box. Now, I didn't line this holster with suede. It keeps it a little lighter. And a consideration for suede: if you're going to be wearing a rig like this and you're out on horses and you might get caught in the rain, you don't want suede getting wet, because it just turns to a big mush, a mess, and it'll stink up too. So it's better to just have an unlined rig like this one. This entire rig, every surface that you can see, I finished with Kiwi Neutral Wax shoe polish. Comes in the light tan colored can. So there, if you look at Bonanza, which is of course still running on TV Land, you will see this element, styling element, on the holster. I sewed all the way around, as you can see, on the belt billet, and of course sewing this down onto here and hiding the back of this in here means it's not coming out. There's a big glob of glue on the tail ends of this latigo in the back here that's buried inside here, and these are not going to come out. Now, I put 33 .22 caliber bullet loops on this rig. And there they are. Now, what you're seeing on the end, I will bring around as I swing the rig around to show you the other end of it. This man's a size 40, by the way. Okay. This is a case for his other cylinder, the one that's not in the gun. So it has a magnetic closure on it, and yeah, you're going to hear a little click when this point right here goes into, there it is. That's magnetic. That way you don't have to fiddle around with sticking your finger in here and pushing back on a snap. So this will hold either one of his cylinders. I'll just open it up a little bit so you can see it. Or, if you are not taking a cylinder with you, you can dump extra bullets in here. So it has a double purpose. And this is made out of 5/6 leather. It's real thick, real substantial, and sewn together. And 3 of the bullet loops that are on the back of the belt are underneath this. And it is attached with 2 line 24 snaps. Big guys. This is the part where you tuck in on a Ranger belt overlap. So things go in here. This buckle is changeable, changeable, I guess is the best word. And what else? I think that's about it. Okay. So if you've got a Ruger 22 single 6 in any of the barrel lengths, Ruger made them in 4 5/8, 5 1/2, and 6 1/2. Or the Heritage Arms, there's a 4 5/8 and a 6 1/2. Some of them, I've noticed when I've looked at the Heritage Arms, the newer ones, they have these fiber optic sights on them. And I don't believe this gentleman's gun has the fiber optic sights. It has the blade sights, which this gun has. These are the blade sights. But either way, this holster pattern and the way that the holster is shaped will allow a gun with the fiber optic sights to go in through there. Not a problem. This holster is about 1/4 of an inch thick, and so is the belt. It's the same leather. Let me get it back into the shot. It's the same leather all the way around. 2 layers of this, 2 layers of this. Okay. And the contrast on the belt billets, another little feature that sets it off a little bit. Contrast in the colors is because it's different leather. This is thicker leather than any one layer of the belt itself is. So makes for a nice contrasting brown. This is a real nice cinnamon brown, as you can see. And the way this pattern worked out, I made a new pattern for this gun and a new pattern for the belt. This holster has 0 retention, and it will just fall right out of this holster. And I think you can hear it going in. This is pretty tough stuff, even though there's no rawhide in here at all. Okay. So, I think I am out of things to show you, other than a parting shot, and to let you know that if you want to get a rig like this, a lot of guys have 22s, a lot of people have 22s, Ruger single 6s. And if you'd like a gun belt for your Ruger single 6, let me know. You'll find all the information on the end titles of the video to let you know how to get a rig like this for yourself. So thanks for watching from, here, let's put this on. And you pull that down, and there it is. Okay. So thanks for watching, and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Amy Rose with AMC Movie News, and I'm joined by a very special guest today, Damien Chazelle, writer, director of Whiplash. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
I love this movie. I cannot stop talking about this movie. I studied film and music in school, so.
See, they got the poster?
Yeah, the poster. We're fancy here.
This is fancy.
Yeah. So I would love you to tell our audience just kind of how this came to fruition, because you actually had a similar experience at your own jazz, right, band?
Yeah, I mean, that is how it sort of started. I was a jazz drummer myself growing up, and I was living here in LA trying to figure out something I could write that was personal, that I could make somewhat easily, that I could direct myself. And so I decided to just go back to my own memories, I guess, and decided that the sort of relationship I had with the conductor as a drummer would be good fodder for like a weird music school thriller.
It kind of felt that way.
Yeah.
Now,
That's what it felt like to me.
Was he as crazy as J.K. Simmons' character Fletcher?
No, but he scared me as much, and that was more what it was about. It was about trying to get into that subjective mindset when you're young and impressionable and a musician, and you decide that this person's approval means more to you than anything in the world. What that kind of relationship can drive you to, both in good and very bad ways. So it's. So it was really about that. It was about that kind of mindset.
Absolutely. So is part of you and yourself like in Miles Teller's character, or is that just, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not J.K. Simmons' character. I'm a nice, really caring individual, and I get abused.
Oh, my goodness. So our audience is obviously gathering that it's about jazz and abuse and all of that, but we kind of tell them about just the central theme of the
things
film.
that make it sound like something you would want to watch?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to me it was hopefully about larger issues. It was about what are we willing to sacrifice in order to achieve greatness? And what does that even mean? As a society, we talk a lot about America is sort of built on this sort of foundation of kind of excellence at all costs. And I think that leads to a lot of problems in our society. So it was about that sort of do the ends justify the means question, and trying to pose that question in the context, hopefully, of a movie that made music school and music a lot more thrilling and exciting and visceral than I think a lot of movies make it feel. To me, as a drummer, it did feel like I was at war. It felt like going into the rehearsal room was like stepping onto a battlefield. Same with going onto a concert stage. So it felt like life or death, and that's what's interesting to me. Even though the stakes are not actually life or death, how do you impart that kind of sense of doom, that sense of like utter dread, when at the end of the day it's just kids playing music? Like that to me is what's interesting. So that's how we wanted to play it, as a real life or death stakes thriller.
Yeah, I love that, because I feel like, a lot of films that deal with music don't show the fear component about wanting to be the greatest, and how fear is kind of a motivator, and it also breaks people that aren't going to go to the edge, that aren't that good. So I thought you showed that really well.
Yeah, that's certainly what I felt on a daily basis was fear. And I remember when I was playing drums, I was seeing a lot of music movies and kind of going, this isn't really capturing it. This isn't what it feels like to me. And then I saw Full Metal Jacket for the first time, and I thought, oh, that actually captures it. That's what it feels like. And that's the irony. It took a Vietnam War movie to like find something that felt at all analogous to the emotions I was feeling as a drummer.
Yeah, war, battlefield, an arena for sports, like it just had that intensity where you don't get that in a lot of films about music and just trying to be the best. Which is great.
And there's a physical aspect of it too. Drums are very physical, so I wanted to show literally the blood, sweat, and tears that go into it.
Lots of blood.
My hands were bloody pulps most of the time, so that was right what you know.
It's real. So do you still play?
No, not that much. I'm not as good as I used to be, so it's kind of depressing. But a lot of my friends kept at it with music, so I always have one foot in the music world, but I guess I feel more comfortable making movies about it.
And hopefully people will, this will kind of give them a love for jazz again, because I love jazz. I grew up on jazz, like my father got me really into that, but I feel like it's been kind of a dying genre, which is insane to me.
I think it's, and I actually think it's a lot more vibrant even today than people realize. And I think a lot of the problem is also this sort of misconception of jazz as, something that plays in the elevator or something that you sip martinis to, and it's very, kind of civilized and sophisticated. And that's not how jazz was born. It's not what jazz is to me. Jazz to me is full of energy. It's full of anger and emotion and rage and joy as well. And it's this really enthralling punk rock kind of art form that has this sort of edge to it that I think has been sapped out of a lot of sort of depictions of jazz on film. So I wanted to bring that back. I wanted to film jazz as though we were at a punk rock concert, the same kind of bravado.
Full throttle. I
Yeah.
loved it. So let's talk about your two leads, because you gave them such an incredible vehicle to shine in this film. We have Miles Teller, obviously, as Andrew, the aspiring jazz musician, and J.K. Simmons as the terrifying maestro of jazz. What was it like locking these two really talented actors for this film?
It was every bit as fun as you make it sound. I mean, it's kind of, you write parts like this for actors. This was intentionally written as an actor's kind of vehicle. I like movies that give actors a lot of room to play with and that let them really go at it. And J.K. Simmons is someone who, I've loved for so long, and yeah, he did Oz a long time ago, but I liked even more the idea of Juno's dad kind of coming into the scene, Mac McGuff kind of showing up on set and scaring, just scaring the bejesus out of people. And Miles was the perfect sort of reaction to that. Miles is someone who I've loved since Rabbit Hole. I just think he's such a versatile actor, and I think he's capable of saying so much with so little just in his face. And his is a role that's really tricky because a lot of times he has to respond to JK's kind of venom, and often silently or through his drumming. It's a very physicalized performance. And Miles is just more than up to the challenge, and he'd been drumming since he was 15, so it was fun to kind of get him back in a drum kit and get the two of them going.
I was blown away at how good he is at drums, because he
got good for this movie.
Oh.
I mean, he knew rock drumming, but he didn't know jazz drumming at all, and he had to, it's a whole other beast, and he had to really train a lot.
And I love the shots that you got, getting up close and intimate with that, because you could tell that he was actually playing. A lot of the films you're like, oh, they're cheating, that's not them, but there was nothing to hide here.
Yeah.
And I love those shots because it just made you feel again, the intensity of what they're going through and how hard they're pushing themselves.
Yeah, and it gives something. Miles is so good at acting through his instrument as well. In a way, I think a lot of actors might have just kind of been so focused on just getting the beat right, because these are complicated beats that they forget to kind of be in the moment. And my favorite moments of Miles in the movie are just kind of moments where he's reacting to JK while he's trying to play, and there's this whole current of emotions going on in his face, and it's just, he's so adept at sort of expressing emotions through different parts of his body that it's just really unlike, I think, a lot of actors of his generation.
Absolutely, and this definitely showcases a different side than we've seen of him. Spectacular Now and Rabbit Hole, we've seen that, but he's also done a lot more of the rom-com kind of routes, and if they didn't know he had this in him, you showed them.
Yeah, I think Miles's problem is that he's too versatile in the sense that as soon as he does something, people assume that's all he can do. So after Rabbit Hole, he had trouble getting comedy gigs because everyone assumed, oh, you're the serious, wounded teen, you can't do comedy. And then he started doing a bunch of comedy movies, and then everyone assumed, oh, no, you're the funny, goofy sidekick, you can't do serious drama. So I don't know. I mean, it's like the problem of any young actor, but he's so good at everything he does that I don't know. I feel like it was fun showing a new set of muscles in this movie, and I feel like he's got a lot more to show still.
Absolutely.
I'm doing the next movie with him, so I'm gonna try to keep on that bandwagon.
I was just gonna ask. It looks like you guys are gonna work together with Emma as well.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. That will be exciting.
Yeah, it's a whole other challenge, a whole other kind of music movie. We're doing a full song and dance musical. So.
And what is it called?
So that'll also involve a lot of training. That's called La La Land. We shoot that next year.
So do you think that's going to be kind of your vehicle encompassing music in film, two parts of your biggest passion?
I mean, for now, yeah, and I guess because they are two kind of passions of mine that I sort of had growing up. I mean, for now, it's definitely a world that I like writing about and making movies about. It's not the only thing I want to sort of focus on, but there's something about putting music on film that is just so primally kind of just satisfying for me. And a lot of the things here that were the most kind of fun, it was almost approaching this like a musical. It was like having big musical set piece numbers that we could just, where you build up a lot of emotion through the dialogue and through the dramatic work beforehand, but then you let them explode through music without words. That to me is like, that's where it's like pure cinema, where it really kind of, that's what gets my, gets my pulse racing.
Me too, and I loved that you actually let them play out full numbers.
Yeah.
Because again, without that, I don't feel like it would have built that kind of tension.
Yeah.
And just watching it unfold.
Yeah, it was sometimes on the page, it was hard to convince people that, to let us end the movie with literally 10 minutes of nonstop music. But to me, it's like that's the reason you do this kind of movie, is to end it that way.
I would literally argue that that is the best 10 minutes end of a film, like, in years.
Oh, thank you.
It is so exciting, and you're like, wait for it, it's coming, wait for it. It's so satisfying. And a film like this, I feel like, sure, you can see it at home, whatever, but with an audience, because it just has a lot of those moments where, you want it full throttle again.
I wanted to, that was part of the challenge as well. It's like, as soon as you say, I'm gonna do a movie about, a teacher-student relationship in a music school, it feels very small, And so the whole point of how to approach this in terms of the filmmaking, the shooting, the editing, was to just make it feel as big as possible. Shoot it in widescreen and just shoot it like a, shoot it to the nines, just shoot it like a big action movie that belongs on a big screen.
Now, premiering it at Sundance was spectacular, critically acclaimed. Did you expect these kind of results?
No, I mean, it's always a tough question to answer, because obviously when you're editing something, you daydream about, oh, wouldn't it be great if? But when it comes down to it, like, I just kind of, I'm so nervous before screenings, I just hope they don't hate it. It's just kind of like avert disaster. And then if it turns out the other way, that's awesome, but it's always somewhat of a surprise. But we've had a whole kind of ride with this movie so far, and it's been kind of one surprise after another, but it still is surprising. It still is, maybe because I'm such a pessimist, I still find myself surprised. But that's the thing, though. It's that you write something really personal that seems like it's about a really kind of maybe even inaccessible subject, but you hope that it connects. I always hoped that this movie would connect to people who never listened to jazz in their life, or never picked up a pair of drumsticks, or never went to music school, or never cared about those things. So that's the real reward, is whenever you see it connecting beyond the parameters of what the story is about, then that's really, then you know that some part of the themes you wanted to talk about on a universal level are getting through.
And I feel like they are. I mean, I do love film and music. Those are my two.
Same here.
That's my heart. But beyond that, I feel like it just shows passion. When you want something so bad, what are you willing to do? Are you going to break under pressure, or are you going to rise to the challenge?
Yeah.
That's a universal theme.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think anyone can relate to that.
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. So put on your salesman hat for a second. Why should people go see Whiplash?
Because, I mean, off of what we were saying, I think Whiplash ultimately is a really universal story. I think we've all kind of, we all have these sort of dreams, and we wonder to what extent we should go for them. And I think especially today, for today's generations, I think we live in such a competitive world, in a world that I think discourages a lot of people. So I wanted to make a movie about this sort of obstacles to achieving a dream. In terms of music movies, there are a lot of music movies that are about ready-made great musicians. You begin the movie and the guy's already a genius. I wanted to make a movie about someone who does not begin as a great musician, and try to examine that process, what it actually takes to rise to greatness.
Absolutely. Well, you have through this film, and I cannot wait to see other projects of yours. And I'd love to end on a note, because you are fairly young in this industry, which is crazy and very cutthroat. Do you have any advice for aspiring filmmakers?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest lesson I learned from this was keep it personal. I'd been in LA a bunch, writing a lot of stuff, trying to get stuff off the ground with not much success. And it was only once I decided, you know what, screw it, I'm just gonna literally write, start off by writing what happened to me as a drummer. It was only once I kind of started with that sort of frame of mind, that stuff actually started happening, So I think don't be afraid to be really personal, even if it's embarrassing to put on the page.
Great advice. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I cannot tell you guys enough how much I loved this movie. Go check it out. It hits theaters October 10th. I'll include a buy tickets link right in the description of this show. Thank you so much for joining us, Damien.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm Amy Rose with AMC Movie News, and go see Whiplash. You will not be disappointed. And yeah, thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you next time.
Hey everyone, if you like this video, click that thumbs up button and make sure to subscribe to our AMC Movie News YouTube channel. It's free and helps you stay up to date with all the latest movie news, as well as our daily AMC movie talk show. Also, make sure that you follow us on Facebook and Twitter to stay up to date with all of our special promotions, contests, and prize giveaways.